If you ask watch enthusiasts for recommendations for automatic watches under $300, you're probably going to get pointed towards Japan. People are going to recommend brands like Seiko and Orient because they make pretty much the best automatic watches under $300. But there is another huge brand over here in Japan that does produce automatic watches in that price range. They just don't always sell them outside of Japan. And that brand is Citizen. Today I'm going to be showing you two beautiful automatic watches from Citizen, both of which are right around $200. Plus, as a bonus, we'll look at one of their EcoDrive quartz watches. And all three of these watches are JDM exclusive. That means that they are sold here in Japan, and they're a lot harder to find outside of Japan. Or at least they would be if it weren't for companies like today's sponsor, which is Discovery Japan. Discovery Japan makes it very easy to get your hands on these products that are available only in Japan. Not only do they sell watches, but they just have a huge selection of really cool stuff. We'll talk more about them in a minute, but first let's take a look at the three watches we're going to be checking out today. Hey guys, welcome back to Just the Watch. My name's Dave. I live in Japan and I love to collect affordable watches. Now, I moved to Japan about 10 years ago. I'm originally from California back in the United States, but one of the things that I didn't realize when I came over here was just how many affordable watches Japan had that they didn't make available overseas. And when I started looking around shops like Amazon here in Japan, I was just blown away at how many incredible deals there were on just these amazing watches that I hadn't seen back in the United States. And so one of the really fun things about running this channel is being able to show you guys some of these finds that I've had over here in Japan, and that's what we're going to do today. Today I want to focus on Citizen because I think that they're not quite as popular among the watch community. I think everybody really focuses on Seiko, Casio, and Orient, and Citizen's sort of, the number 4 in that when it comes to affordable watches. And part of that, I think, is that most people really associate Citizen with quartz watches. They don't have as many affordable automatic options, again, outside of Japan, but there's a surprisingly large number of them here inside of Japan. I think outside of Japan, people are familiar with their automatic dive watches. We're not going to be looking at those today. I've got two basically dress watches that we're going to check out. They have automatic movements, really beautiful dials and handsets. Finally, we're going to be taking a look at an affordable EcoDrive Chronograph watch that I saw popping up here for also really affordable price. So I wanted to look at that one as well. Now, of course, if you want to get your hands on these watches, it's going to be a little bit difficult because these are JDM models, which means that they are made for the Japan domestic market. That means that the warranties are valid here in Japan and that Citizen themselves doesn't sell these throughout the world. So if you don't live in Japan, you got to find some other shop that's either importing them or is willing to export them to you. And people ask me all the time for recommendations on which shops to look at when they're looking for JDM watches, and I definitely recommend the sponsor of today's video, which is Discovery Japan Mall. I've been working with them for over a year now. They've been providing me with the JDM watches that I've been wanting to show to you guys. And in that time, many of my viewers have used them. I've gotten good feedback from them, so I feel very comfortable recommending them to you as well. If you're looking for a reliable place to get your Japanese watches that also has a huge selection of not only watches, but all kinds of other cool products and fun things from here in Japan, Discovery Japan Mall is the way to go. I'll leave a link to them down in the description, and the pricing that I will be using throughout the rest of this video will be based on the pricing that they have available on their site. However, if you do shop around, you might be able to find better deals. But again, if you're looking for a trustworthy source and you're not sure about some of the other places out there, I think Discovery Japan Mall is a great one to look at. So with that said, let's take a look at the first of our three watches in this video and check out the Citizen NY4050. So this is an absolutely beautiful dress watch from Citizen for right around $200. And that's going to put it kind of in the same league as your Orient Bambinos or your Seiko 5 watches. And I think Citizen did a great job here of juggling the specifications, the style, and the price. And there are three things in particular that I really like about this watch. The first being the blue handset that looks really sharp against that crisp white backdrop of the dial. These elegant Dauphine blue hands have a razor sharp edge to them, and depending on the way the light hits them, they're either going to look a very dark, almost black color to a pretty vibrant royal blue. But no matter what the lighting is, they're always highly legible against that white dial. And the dial is the second thing that I really like about this watch. The center of the dial features a smooth, shimmering texture that almost gives it a pearlescent effect, and then surrounding that is a ring with a cross-hatched texture that's very fine. And it's within in that ring that you're getting the applied metallic hour markers with Roman numerals at 12 and 6, and then batons at all of the other markers. And I think those two Roman numerals really elevate the dial. It gives it a more elegant look, while maintaining a cleanness and legibility that you might lose if you went with all Roman numerals around the dial. And because this is a JDM watch, that means that the day can either be set to an English display or a Japanese kanji display, which I think just looks so cool on the dial of a watch. So, well, as a whole, I feel like this watch gives you about what you would expect from a major brand at this $200 price point. I think that the dial, the handset, and that kanji date really make it stand out and make it something cool and unique. But there are some compromises at this price range. For one, you're only getting a mineral crystal, not a sapphire crystal. And inside, you're getting a Miyota 82,000 series movement. I believe this is the 8205. Now, that makes sense because Citizen owns Miyota, and this is one of Miyota's basic movements. It's kind of their standard entry-level movement that's been around for a while. It features hand winding, but does not have hacking, and it also has a unidirectional rotor, so sometimes that can be a little bit noisy on the wrist. The bracelet is okay. It's comfortable on the wrist. It features solid links, but hollow end links, and a pressed clasp that only has 2 micro adjusts, so it might be a little bit difficult to get a perfect fit. Now, the one thing that is going to be a problem, I think, for a lot of people is that this watch features 19mm lug openings, and I think that's a shame because this watch looks great on a strap. In fact, I think my preference would be to wear it on a nice leather strap. And since I do have a couple of other watches with 19mm lug openings, I was able to throw it on a few different straps for my collection. And again, I think it looks fabulous on a leather strap. But with the 19mm size, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find straps, and you're probably going to have to go out and buy them specifically for this watch. But given the very affordable price point of right around $200, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to do. Okay, if you guys like this video, definitely hit the like button down below. And if you're interested in getting more recommendations on JDM watches or seeing other affordable watches, I also invite you to subscribe to the channel. And if you're not in the market for purchasing a watch right now, but you want a watch t-shirt, I'm selling these ones on my website at justthewatch.com. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the second watch today. This one's going to be the Citizen Record Label automatic watch. Next, we're going to take a look at another automatic dress watch from Citizen. On paper, this one looks kind of similar to the previous one. It is also 40mm. It has that same Miyota 82,000 series day date, but the style is a lot different. This is much more of a retro kind of neo 70s vibe. And I think the overall finishing is a lot better than the previous one. This one, you're getting some very nice bevels going across the corners on the lugs. You're also getting a boxed domed mineral crystal that I think adds a lot of character to this watch. And that's what I think really makes this watch stand out. It just has a ton of personality and just a really cool aesthetic. Probably the first thing that's going to jump out at you is that day display at 12 o'clock. Whenever a watch puts the day display at 12 o'clock, it's going to be one of the main visual elements, but they've done it in a unique way here by framing the day with a heptagon. That's a 7-sided polygon. Now, one thing to note, because of the orientation of the day display up at 12 o'clock, you can't do a bilingual day here. So this one is going to give you the days in English only, despite this being a JDM watch. Now, the handset and the markers also follow that theme of kind of unique geometry and angles, with sword hands that are razor sharp and diamond shaped, and hour markers that have an almost jewel-like shape to them. All of these are done in a very high polish, and they're set against a dark gray, maybe anthracite kind of sunburst dial. And well, I love the dial here. I love the color. I love the effect of the light hitting it. It does make it very easy to lose the hands and markers against that dark background. In bright lighting, you're not going to have a problem, but if you do get into kind of dimmer indoor lighting, you might struggle to read the time at certain angles. This being more of a dress watch, that's kind of excusable. Dress watches can kind of get away with putting style over function in some cases. But this watch does feature a tiny bit of lume. There's a thin strip going down the middle of the hands, and then little lume dots above each of the applied hour markers. This is going to give you a brief period of after dark legibility that fades very quickly. Again, pretty much typical for almost any dress watch that's going to include lume on it. The strap on the watch matches the character of it. It's a faux crocodile leather strap. It's very similar to a lot of other straps I've seen equipped with watches in similar price ranges. It's got enough comfort, it'll last you a little while, but because this watch features 20mm lugs, it's going to be very easy to find a replacement when you need to, or if you just want to give it a different look. So I really appreciate that about this watch as well. All in all, I think this is a really cool pickup for right around $200. All right, moving on to our final watch in this video, we're going to take a look at an affordable eco-drive chronograph from Citizen. This is the AT2500. This is a very affordable quartz chronograph that has a pretty cool look to it. The last one we're looking at is the Citizen AT2500 quartz chronograph. This is an eco-drive quartz chronograph, so that means it's solar powered or light powered. You never have to worry about changing the batteries here. And that combined with the robust 100 meters of water resistance, the excellent lume, along with a cool style, really made this one jump out at me, especially for the $165 price that you can get it from Discovery Japan Mall. I really like the black and white color scheme, especially with those kind of light brown accents on the hands and the markers. I think you would still call this a panda dial, even though the subdials are just ringed in black instead of being completely blacked out. But whatever you want to call it, I think this design just really works well. When you're doing a white dialed sports watch like this, I really like it when brands decide to go with a blacked out handset and black outlines around the lume plots on the markers. This makes everything very legible, very easy to see, and it's a really sharp, cool look. And Citizen has also paired this with a black chapter ring going around the entire dial. And interesting, they've also gone with a black aluminum elapsed time bezel, which you typically find on dive watches. But the dial design, case shape, and everything else about this watch really looks more like a driving chronograph rather than a dive watch, so I'm not sure why they went with that. I think it would have been a lot cooler to see a 12-hour bezel on there for tracking a second time zone. As it is, it's a little bit redundant to have a 1-hour elapsed time bezel along with a 1-hour chronograph. But it looks cool, and it's always fun to have a rotating bezel to fidget with. Unfortunately, this one's a little bit hard to operate. The grip is pretty slippery, and it's kind of difficult to get a hold of and to actually turn and use, to the point where it's even a little bit frustrating. Now, another thing that I do really like about this watch is the choice of colors. I think it's really cool to see those kind of vintage brown toned accents on the hands and markers where the lume is. And I think it's very interesting that they paired this up with a blue NATO style strap. These color choices give the watch a distinct feel that really differentiates it from others in the category. And well, oftentimes when you go to this kind of patinaed brown color for your lume, you lose a lot of brightness. Citizen has managed to keep it very bright. The lume here is pretty powerful, and I was really impressed with it, again, especially at this low price range. Finally, going back to the dial, I think it's kind of cool that they did a black date window with this at 4 o'clock. And you know, on chronograph watches, it's always hard to find a good location to put the date on the dial because it's so crowded with all the subdials. But by lining it up exactly with the 4 o'clock marker and blacking it out like that, it really makes it kind of blend in more and function as a part of that 4 o'clock marker. And going back to the strap, well, I like the blue color. The quality and the size is maybe a little bit lacking. It's kind of short, particularly on my 7.5-inch wrist. It would be totally fine for a regular strap, but typically with NATO straps, you expect them to be a little bit longer than this. But it is a high quality strap with metal rivets around the holes to keep it from fraying. However, this watch does feature standard 20mm lugs, so I want to swap it out to another strap and see how it would look. And as it turns out, I just got in a leather strap from one of my viewers. Tom over in the UK has a shop on Etsy where he makes handmade leather straps and sent this one in, so I thought I'd throw it on this watch, and I really like the way it looks. It's a really beautiful, high-quality piece of leather with a rugged, vintage, handmade look to it, and he's selling them on his site for between 20 and 25 pounds. So really affordable for a handmade strap of this quality, and I think it looks great on sports watches and chronograph watches like this one here. Anyways, last thoughts on this watch. I would say the finishing is a little bit underwhelming, but about what you would expect in this price range. Likewise, the chronograph movement here is a very basic one that doesn't have a smooth sweeping chronograph hand. The chronograph hand ticks at once per second. And the pushers have kind of a mushy feel to them. They're not very crisp or mechanical like you would get on a Mecha Quartz. All of this is totally acceptable at this price range, but it is worth noting. But the dial looks great. You get that hassle-free eco-drive movement and 100 meters of water resistance. And I think all of that more than justifies the asking price. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today. Let me know what you think of the watches down below. Let me know which was your favorite of the three, and if you're interested in purchasing any of them. For me, it's a tough call between the two automatics, but I think I probably like that record label one a little bit better. But those blue hands and that legible dial on the NY4050 is hard to pass up as well. I think both of those are winners. Anyways, let me know your thoughts down below. And again, if you're interested in purchasing any of these, I'll leave links to Discovery Japan Mall down below in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.